So Medical Marijuana Inc. just announced that they had $6.1 million in revenue in Q2 of 2017. Now, just like always with this company, it doesn't seem that this news was particularly acknowledged by anybody in the Reddit community, so usually Reddit will post all the news of the marijuana companies. But once again, this company, the news did not get posted. Nobody really seemed to be aware of it or really care about it. So, well, it's understandable why people don't care about it. The company has been pumped and dumped over the past few years. I've explained this before. And during this time, especially, the company did not have a lot of revenue, so it's understandable why it went down. But over the past year or so, this company is actually looking better. So let me explain. This company is currently valued at $320 million. They own 43% of Axon Biotechnologies, which is currently valued at $500 million on the market. This might be high, but that's what people are paying for it, so I'm going to use this value. So at $500 million for Axon Biotechnologies, it means that this company without Axon Biotechnologies would be worth about $100 million. Now, for $100 million, you would be getting a company that had $6.1 million in revenue in the last quarter, which is pretty good. So let me explain why this is significant. So in Q3 of 2016, they had $2.1 million in revenue, right? The entire year of 2016, they had $8 million in revenue. Q1 of 2017, they had $3.6 million in revenue, and then Q2 of 2017, they just announced that they had $6.1 million in revenue. So this company, the revenue is growing fairly significantly, and that's really, really good. And this revenue growth, mind, occurred without Mexico. So this company is currently getting set up in Mexico. Mexico did just legalize medical marijuana, and this company already has an office, I believe, established somewhere there, and they are currently working on getting their products into stores and just having their products be available in Mexico and people being aware that they exist. So they are going to be having another revenue stream coming in from Mexico in probably a few months, maybe even less. And once that happens, they should be having even more in revenue, and everywhere else that they're established, which is Brazil, the United States, and a few other countries, they are growing at a fairly decent rate. So in addition to Mexico, which this company will get set up, this company is already growing, and everything is looking fairly good. So I am invested into this company, and I originally invested because this company is focusing on countries like Brazil and Mexico, where a lot of other companies aren't really focusing on those companies or on those countries. So this company pretty much has free reign on companies like Mexico, not companies, countries. Countries like Mexico, and you know, it should be getting fairly decent revenue by the end of 2017, in my opinion. So I bought into this company at the beginning of the year, somewhere around here, and I expected this to happen, and it is currently happening, and I'm happy about that. So yeah, so here's the thing. First quarter of 2017, they had $3.6 million in revenue. Cost of goods was about $1 million, so that's $2.5 million in gross profit. After all the administrative fees and selling fees in general, the expenses I mean, they lost out on $1 million. So on $3.6 million in revenue, they lost out on $1 million for their entire operation. Now, if you take into account the interest expense, which always ate away at a fairly significant portion of their income, they lost $2.2 million. Now, this interest expense is associated with their debt, I'm pretty sure. And once their debt is paid off, which is about $13 million right now, I think, maybe a little bit more. Once their debt is paid off, then this interest expense should go away. Now, let's say that by the end of the year, they're going to be making $10 million per quarter. If this company can make $10 million per quarter in revenue, then all of a sudden this interest expense is not that big of a deal, because $10 million in revenue, this is only going to be 1/10 of their revenue, so it's not going to be as significant. At $10 million of revenue, they can probably make a profit. So they lost $1 million on $3.6 million in revenue. If they make $10 million in revenue, I assume that they can probably be profitable. I'm not sure if they can be profitable because some of their fees might go up. So currently they're getting set up in Mexico, and one of the things that's probably going to be expensive for them with getting set up in Mexico is professional fees, because you need to get people who know what they're doing to establish proper connections for you, to get your products into specific stores, to get doctors to be aware of your products, to prescribe your products, and stuff like that. So I assume that professional fees are going to be higher for the next few quarters at least. But after everything is done and set, after they have established themselves in new markets such as Mexico and Brazil, they're already established in Brazil, but after they get established in Mexico, the professional fees and some of the other fees should go down while their revenues should keep growing. And once that happens, then this company can actually be fairly decently profitable, I think, and it should be looking fairly well. Their revenue is growing without the help of Mexico right now at a fairly significant pace. So if you include Mexico in there, which should become visible, the revenue stream from Mexico should become visible in probably the next 2 quarters. But once that happens, I mean, this company should be looking fairly good. And once they actually become profitable, which at this point does not seem like it's going to be too far away, but once they become profitable, they can pay off their debt, they can get rid of this interest expense which is eating them alive, and all of a sudden this company would be looking fairly good. And even though it's heavily diluted, and once they start becoming profitable, the dilution can finally stop. One of the things that I've said about this company before is that even though it's heavily diluted, even though it has a lot of debt, and even though it has a fairly shady history, so a lot of people don't like this, at least you know about this. At least you know all of the negative things about this company. You know that they have a lot of debt. You know that this company has been diluted fairly heavily. And I think that that's actually a good thing, because with a lot of the newer companies, whenever you invest into a newer company, you don't know how much debt they're going to accumulate over the next few years. You don't know how much dilution is going to occur over the next few years. So there's a lot of unknowns. With this company, at least you know what's going to be happening, and with this company, at least there are no barriers for them to actually become profitable anymore. So a lot of the Canadian companies right now, the Canadian licensed producers, they need the legalization to become profitable. But this company, it doesn't need any of that. This company is already ready to go. It has products. Their products are available in multiple countries around the world. All that they have to do is get their products to sell more, which they are currently doing. Their revenue is growing quite nicely, and they're good. Everything is looking good for these guys. So I think that this company is fairly interesting. I am invested into it. I think that by the end of the year it should go up again, and we'll see. So take a look at it. It's an interesting company in my opinion, and I think that definitely once they get set up in Mexico and once everything gets rolling, this company should be a fairly interesting company, and they might become profitable quite soon. So that's good.